Coming up on episode 389 of Wheel Bearings, we've got mid-century modern design, the Toyota Crown Signia, Subaru Solterra, the Volvo EX30 Cross Country, renting and charging an EV from Hertz, charging a Polestar at a Rivian charging station, supercharging the Hyundai Ioniq 5, pop-up ads and Jeeps, and a whole lot more. All that coming up next. This is episode 389 of Wheel Bearings. I'm sorry. I'm Sam Abul-Sam from Telemetry Insights.
I'm Nicole Wakeland from Car Buzz, and this is all my fault.
I am composed. I am Roberto Baldwin from SAE International. Unlike my co-hosts, I know how to keep it real.
Somebody's got to be the professional around here.
I am the professional, which is the last thing I've ever expected to say in a group of any humans. I am the professional here right now.
Oh, well, the three of us, we were before we started recording, we were all in Palm Springs at various times this week, driving something that we'll talk about next week because it's still under embargo. But we were sharing some of our thoughts about the hotel that we stayed at, which was
something.
Let's say it has seen better days.
What did you describe it as, Robbie? What did you say?
Oh, Temu mid-century modern.
Temu mid-century modern, yeah.
Which I appreciate. But it's
Four Seasons prices.
Until I found out what the prices were per night. And then I was like, whoa, that's like 75% too much.
At least.
It's not like it's a horrible run. It's not like
no, it's not run down. It's just
no, but when you look close at the details, you realize, oh yeah, this is not real.
Yeah,
it's a Truman Show.
Cool on the surface, but
that's good. Truman Show. It's Truman Show mid-century modern.
Truman Show mid-century modern.
Yeah. That's where we were.
It's the kind of thing that, when they started transitioning, to filming movies at high frame rates, above 24 frames per second, or doing high def TV, and they suddenly realized, that all this stuff that, when you look at it at standard def, it just kind of blurs just enough that it looks really cool. But when you see it in high def and when you see it up close in real life, because my wife, we went out a few days early and we stayed in the area. And then when we got to the hotel, my wife is an aficionado of mid-century modern stuff. And when she had looked at the website, she said, "Oh yeah, this looks so cool." And then when we got there, she started seeing all these little details around it. Clearly, the place has seen somewhat better days.
Yeah. And if you love mid-century modern, Palm Springs, like you cannot beat Palm Springs. It like the houses, some of the places, some of the hotels, it's really quite amazing. But it also it creates an aesthetic that some places weren't originally didn't have that aesthetic, or because of lack of maintenance, they've sort of run down and they get bought and they get fixed up. And instead of spending thousands upon thousands and thousands of dollars for each hotel room to recreate that what it originally was, you hop on the old Temu and then
it doesn't make it sound like it's like dirty or anything.
No. It was nice clean.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and the service there is fantastic. Yeah. They're absolutely lovely. They have a really nice little coffee shop in the lobby where you can get real coffee. Because I was sitting at breakfast and I was like, "Oh, I don't want this coffee," and we went down and got our little cappuccinos and lattes, fancy coffee.
And the fish tacos at Norma's are fantastic.
Are they good?
Oh yeah.
Oh, the fish tacos are so good.
I bet.
Yeah.
The food there.
I had the fish taco. They were good. Yeah, it's an odd place because there's I just feel like it's just too much money. Like if it was all the things that it is and it was like half the price, I think okay. But then when I found out how much it was, I'm like,
so did you try the tiramisu they had for dinner for dessert the one night? Did you have tiramisu on your dinner?
We didn't have tiramisu.
Yeah, we had tiramisu.
Okay, so there was in this tiny little cup, like sort of shot glass-ish kind of thing, and you know how you put cocoa powder on top of your tiramisu. There's a little too much.
yeah, I had that issue too.
And I went to scoop it, and as I went to take a bite, I literally saw like
little choking on the cocoa.
I took it really, but the poor guy from what company were they? Hyundai across from me, he like took a breath as he took his, and I thought he was going to die. It was like he inadvertently did the cinnamon challenge with hot cocoa. He's like, I'm going to die. Everybody else is like really delicately taking a bite and trying to
I had the same issue.
But speaking of fish, like when we first arrived, we were a little too early to go to our Airbnb and check in. So we went, drove into downtown Palm Springs to get find some place to have some lunch, and we found this little place called Fisherman's Market and Grill, and we both had fish and chips. I had halibut. My wife had cod. And the fish was just done perfectly. And the potatoes, the way they did the potatoes, really crispy, fully cooked. Because one of the problems you often have with potatoes, and there was another place we ate at that the potatoes are often undercooked. The potatoes were perfectly cooked. So if you're in Palm Springs and you're looking for, a cool spot to have some lunch, grab a bite to eat, Fisherman's Market and Grill, definitely go for the fish and chips. Really, really fantastic.
And everyone's going to need to pause the podcast and have a snack because all we've done is talk about food. Talk about cars.
All right. Well, let's talk about cars. What have you been driving, Nicole?
I have the Subaru Solterra, which is Subaru's EV, and it's sort of kind of the exact same thing as the Toyota BZ4X. Little stylistic differences. One of the things,
very little, but there's one significant difference. So, and I've complained about this before, the way that the instrument cluster is placed is very far forward and sort of almost down this sort of tunnel kind of thing, the way they've designed it. And the steering wheels, which are traditionally round, initially that would block the instrument cluster, and it sort of depended on your height. I found people that were like that 5'6" or shorter tended to have issues. People who were taller didn't tend to have the same issues. So I think it's all a matter of your perspective at that tunnel. Well, Toyota still has the round steering wheel as far as you know, but Subaru sort of flattened the top and bottom. And that little cutting off that little bit makes it perfect now. Like now I don't have a problem. I drove this and I realized not once did I think like, oh gosh, stupid steering wheels in the way, because before I would drive it, and no matter what I did with my seat, no matter how I positioned the wheel, I was either ducking under or sort of sitting up a little too tall to see over, because I really couldn't. It just went right through the middle of it. So I appreciate that Subaru decided to make that change and fix that issue, because it was the single most annoying thing in the car. Do you have anything else positive to say about the Solterra?
Here's the thing. I'm not a big fan of the Solterra or the BZ4X. I don't, because they're essentially the same. I just don't feel like they're great EVs. They're not bad EVs. It's not like they do anything wrong. I just don't think there's anything remarkable or stand out about them. And I do think there's a little bit too much hard plastic in it. It looks a little cheap. In fact, my neighbor, who's a big Subi fan, saw me pull in and said, hey, like, oh my gosh, which one is that? And I told her, and she's like, what do you think? I'm like, it's so-so. And she came over and she looked, and she, who has had, I think, 3-4 Subarus since I've known her, she thought the interior looked a little lackluster. She's like, oh, this one doesn't feel like a Subaru. I don't like how this one. And I had the top trim, which is the Touring. So presumably the nicest the Subaru Solterra gets. So it's not that I hate it. It's just I feel like in EVs, there's better EVs out there. So you get a standard all-wheel drive, because Subaru, it's got 215 horsepower, 249 pound-feet of torque. Doesn't sound like a lot, but actually this thing really moves. If you hit the accelerator, it is aggressive. It has that typical EV power that just, jets you forward. You want to cut into heavy traffic. You want to get up to speed. You're never going to have a problem with that. Where it doesn't do so great is on range. So the top range is the premium. That gets 277, and it comes down to the limit in the Touring, get 222 miles of range. I got one, and here's the thing. So
actually, that's 227, not 277.
Oh, 227. Sorry, I wrote the wrong thing. Thank you for correcting me, Sam. I appreciate that. But so I have the Touring, which should be 222 miles of range. Now, you talk about what cold does to a car. Currently, it is so snowy here. It is the most miserable winter weather. We're getting a foot of snow as we speak, and it's been cold. Not like 2 degrees cold, like low 20s for the last few days. I had the car plugged in. I went outside, unplugged it, got inside, 161 miles of range. and it had been literally plugged in, unplug it, and it wasn't frigid cold. The 20s is not, I know if you live in California, you're like, oh my gosh, that's freezing. That's not really that bad for February in most places where
they're practically t-shirt weather.
Right, practically. So in the 20s, like high 20s, almost 30s a couple of days, but it was 161 miles of range. That's not great. That's yes, it's probably going to get through your day, but
yeah, but you can charge it up really fast, right?
Not so much. So 10 to 80% now, about 35 minutes to charge it up from 10 to 80. Mm-hmm.
Well, it is better. I mean, it used to take you like over an hour.
Over an hour.
So I think the peak is still like 100 kilowatts, but it's a flatter curve now.
Yes, so it's better. But here's the thing: these are better numbers, and they're still not great. Which So yeah. Now something they did do right. So, and I have the 24. Which really hasn't changed for 25, but what did change for 25 was pricing. This was outrageously overpriced before. So for 24, the top touring trim was $52,000, which is just way too much for what this car is. That's just too much money. That made no sense.
Bonkers.
Yeah, it was bonkers. So the pricing was, and technically for the one I had backwards, $51,995, $48,495, $44,995. So the base trim of this car was about $45,000. They've dropped it all for 25. So the premium unlimited dropped by $6,500. The touring drops by $7,000, and they added a touring Onyx edition. Even that's the most expensive trim in the lineup now, is still less. That it's still $6,000 less than what the touring was last year. So they've made significant price cuts. Starting this at $38,495 makes a heck of a lot more sense. I still just don't find this car really compelling. I don't find it premium enough for the pricing. Even at like the touring I'm driving right now, that's $44,995 right now. It doesn't feel like a nearly $45,000 car to me, which is part of why I'm just not huge on this. Looks fine on the outside. I mean, styling on the outside is great. The styling inside, aside from that like weird tunnel for the instrument cluster, is fine. It drives nicely. So I kind of feel like if you're just really a Subaru fan and you want to try EV, this is totally going to work for you. Just be aware that you're getting something that has a lower range. So if you're a big road tripper, this is not the car for you, because this will slow down your road trip significantly with how often you'll have to stop to charge. And if you live where there's winter weather, keep that in mind too, because then it takes another chunk, just because winter does that to every EV. But if you're starting with 305 and you cut down, it's a big difference than starting at 227 and it gets cut down. So it's fine. It's this, an EV, if you're a Subaru fan and you want to get it, go for it. It's fine. But I'm just not a fan.
Well, okay, so there's a charger near my house, an EA charger. Mm-hmm. And with my Ioniq 5, I get free charging for 2 years for 30 minutes, which, the Ioniq 5 charges in like 20 minutes or 25 minutes from 10 to 80%. So for some reason, this charger will not go above like 140, this charging station. And yesterday when I went there on the way back from taking the dogs for a walk, typically we charge at home, but I have to check my charger. It's one of those NLX, the charged, juice boxes that's been slowly being sunset. And I went and I grabbed the charger and it was warm, and I was like, oh, this isn't going to charge very fast. I'm like, whatever. So I plug it in, I wait. It's like 135, 140. I was so irritated at that speed because I had preconditioned the battery by setting the destination, and I was just like, this is annoying. And now, and years, it's like, it felt like only a few years ago, I was super excited about 50 kilowatt charging. Right? Now I'm like, come on. And I cannot imagine going out and like, for me, because I actually do a lot of road trips with this car, if it was like 100 kilowatts, I'd be like, especially for a Subaru, because that's the adventure car. When I had my Subaru, I took it snowboarding, I took it kayaking, I took it everywhere. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, and so at that price, especially when you combine
the price, the mediocre range, and slow charging, it's like, why would you choose this over literally anything else in the segment?
Yeah, you could get a Kona.
See, that's the problem. It's not like if it was if you didn't have the competition wasn't so good, but it is.
The Kona has more range. It charges a little slower, but it has more range. So you're going to go a little bit further during those minutes. What's the Kona start at? 32, 33.
Yeah. Right?
So it's hard to just, especially at that price point. You're just like, what? And then like $2,000 or $3,000 more, you can just get an Ioniq 5.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't dislike it, but I can't recommend it, I guess is what it is. Because I feel
one advantage the Subaru does have is it's actually got halfway decent ground clearance. So if you're going to go off pavement, we're not going to talk about drive impressions today, but the new Ioniq 5 XRT, which is their off-roady version of the Ioniq 5, it only has 7 inches of ground clearance. The Solterra has 8.3 inches, which is about the same as what you get on most of the other Subarus.
Yeah.
And, that an inch, every inch makes a significant difference when you're going off road.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I was in an interview, a roundtable with a bunch of Toyota executives. The Solterra is just a BZ4X rebadged, and people actually care about it because the Subaru people are outdoorsy people. And even they sort of admitted that they're like, yeah, we got to do better.
See,
I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but it was essentially, yeah, we know we got to do better.
And for another point of comparison, the Mustang Mach-E Rally, which is nominally supposed to be the most off-roady version of that,
yes,
call it Rally, it's got rally style wheels and everything. It only has 5.8 inches of ground clearance. So it's got less ground clearance than the standard version of the Ioniq 5 and like 2.5 inches less than the Solterra. So, the Solterra does at least have that going for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It has that.
And the BZ4X, also got similar price cuts for model year 2025, but they kept the round steering wheel. So if you're thinking about one of these, go for the Subaru because it's got the flattened steering wheel, so you can at least see the gauge cluster.
That literally would make me, if I was trying to choose between the two, that would be my reason for going with Subaru. There you go. There's a reason to really recommend it. If you were looking at the BZ4X, go with the Solterra instead.
Yeah. It's easier to explain to your friends what it's called. BZ, like what? Did you get a Sony stereo from the 90s? What's happening?
Yeah. And with the weird capitalization and the way Toyota does it, with the lowercase b, uppercase Z, uppercase X.
I have to look it up every single time I type that car. I go
to BZ, I go to the website and then I copy and paste it, and then I just I'm just like, I'm not typing out this insanity.
It's too much.
All right. Let's see. Shall we guess on the destination charge?
$40. No, I'm just kidding. $13.95.
What do you say, Sam?
I'm gonna go $9.85.
Robbie wins. It's $13.45.
Ooh.
But I think it actually jumped slightly. I want to say it was slightly higher for this year. It goes to up by $40 or something. So Robbie still wins.
Okay.
He's a winner.
Go Robbie. Go Robbie.
Well, Robbie, did you drive anything this week?
I didn't drive any because I went to Palm Springs and I just
He's like, that's it. That's all I got in me. Sorry.
I have so many things going on in my life that I'm just like, I need to get some cars in, but it's so low down. It's so down low on my list of priorities just because I don't regularly write the reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So and I know I'm supposed to have it for here. So what I'm telling you is that I'm not. Remember earlier at the top of the podcast where I said I was the professional? Yeah, I'm not.
Lies, damn lies.
I gotta get some cars in. There's a couple cars I still need to drive before March.
All right. Well, I had before we went to Palm Springs, I had the Toyota Crown Signia, which Toyota launched the new Crown here a couple of years ago, and then last year they added the Signia. The Crown, is this kind of funky looking sedan, fastback sedan, but it does, it has a trunk rather than a hatchback, which it arguably probably should have a hatchback. Well, the Crown Signia is, I think, technically the crossover version of the Crown. Same platform, but it looks more like a station wagon, a slightly lifted station wagon. But it doesn't have, any of the off-roady look of like a Subaru Outback. And I think it's a lot better looking than the Crown sedan. Actually, for the most part, kind of like this car. I like the shape, the form factor. It's great, in terms of cargo capacity, people capacity, because of the flatter roof line compared to the sleek, fastback shape of the Crown sedan. Back seats got more room. And like the Crown, it's available as a hybrid only. Although, unlike the Crown sedan, it is not available with the Hybrid Max powertrain. So the Crown sedan you can get with just the regular Toyota Hybrid Synergy drive, which is, with their 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, and I think they're on their 5th generation of their hybrid system now. Or you can get the Hybrid Max, which has the 2.4 liter turbo with a hybrid system that, instead of the eCVT, it uses a conventional 6-speed automatic transmission, which from a driving dynamics perspective is much more engaging to drive. It's also more powerful, but it's not nearly as fuel efficient. Well, they don't offer that powertrain in the Crown Signia. You can only get the standard Hybrid Synergy drive with the eCVT, which is really fuel efficient. I averaged, even cold weather, averaged 36 miles per gallon with it, and, pretty good sized car. But gotta say, the, Toyota's 4-cylinder engines, not the most pleasant sounding engines, any of them, not the naturally aspirated ones, not the turbos. You drive the 2.4 liter turbo, either transverse mount, in any of the cars and crossovers, or the longitudinally mounted versions in the Tacoma and the 4Runner. They just don't sound very good, which is, I think, more of a problem on the hybrids like the Crown Signia than perhaps on something like a Tacoma or 4Runner, because the rest of the car is generally so quiet, and when it does shut off the engine, and it's cruising a little bit on just the battery, when it comes back on, if you need to accelerate, it's really noticeable. Like it's quite loud. Mm-hmm. So not a very pleasant sounding engine in there. The rest of the car, though, quite like, it's very roomy. It's comfortable. The seats are very nice. There's a lot to appreciate about this car. Like I said, it's basically a station wagon, which I think, is a fantastic form factor. And, Americans should be buying many, many, many more station wagons than they do. It would be far better off in most cases with a station wagon than an SUV. But the back seat is roomy. If you've got a couple of kids, obviously, a minivan is a better solution than either an SUV or a station wagon when you've got kids. But even without kids, having the tailgate and then being able to fold the back seats down, you get lots of room for lots of stuff in the back. When I had to go drop off Morty and Patty at boarding before we headed out to California, lots of room in the back seat for the two of them. If you're going shopping at an estate sale to pick up some cool mid-century modern piece of furniture, you can fold those back seats down and fit some really cool stuff in the back of the Crown Signia. The one that I had was finished in, let me find the official color name here. Where'd that tab go now? It is finished in, where is it? Finish line red. So a very attractive shade of red. Not quite as good as Soul Crystal, but but it's still a very nice shade of red. And then this tan colored interior, which kind of breaks it up, so it's not just this massive black everywhere. It's got a nice big 12.5-inch screen, lots of physical controls. Toyota's latest infotainment system, which the more I use it, the more I think it's quite a good system. I think everything about this. The only, like I said, the only real complaint I have is just kind of the engine sound, but everything else about it is really good. It's a good size, and very fuel efficient. Not particularly cheap. The one I had was the Limited, which is the top end model. Came to a grand total of $53,249. Would you care to place your wagers on the delivery charge?
Ooh, $11.95.
What'd you say, Nicole?
I said 14.
Nicole's got it. It's $14.50.
Oh, good job, Nicole.
Hey,
yeah.
Toyota has so many SUVs. I'm looking at their SUV lineup, and it says 15, but it's like it includes like cross and then cross hybrid. But they actually have like 10 SUVs, and I thought they were being crazy when they had the Venza and the RAV4. I'm like, well, the Venza is just a fancier RAV4, so now they got a fancier than a Venza vehicle. So they have the RAV4, a slightly fancier RAV4 with the Venza, and then a fancier Venza with the Crown Signia.
Yeah. I mean, the Crown Signia does kind of replace the Venza in the lineup. So the Venza's gone this year. Just have the Crown Signia. But it's good. It's a good vehicle. Like I said, $50,000. I think base price starts closer to 40. But it is very fuel efficient, very roomy. And for some, if you decide you don't want to be part of the in crowd, and get an SUV, I think this is an excellent alternative to it. And the Toyota calls it a crossover. It's a station wagon, and that's a good thing. Station wagons are cool.
It's like the EV6. They're like, oh, it's a car. I'm like, no, it's a wagon. You just gave us a hatchback. Thanks.
Yeah.
You gave us a little wagon, and then the Ioniq 5 is just a hatchback. Just a really a weirdly big, like it's an optical illusion hatchback.
Yeah. Actually, let me find the base price on the Crown Signia.
It is. Hold on, I got it. I got you. I got you. I was looking at all the. I'm like, how many SUVs does Toyota have? $43,590. Yeah.
Yeah, and even for those base models, it's still pretty well equipped. I mean, this has, the base models, the base trims of all the Toyotas now have the full Toyota safety system 3.0. So you get adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, and all the other blind spot monitoring, all the other useful safety gear, as standard equipment on everything. This one adds, their, it's a low speed, hands-free system, like below 35 miles an hour or something. If you're stuck in traffic, you can go hands-free. Not a very useful upgrade, relative to just using adaptive cruise control. But everything else, again, you can live without a heads-up display. The other stuff, it's all really good. I overall really like the Crown Signia.
Yeah, I know that more and more people have the hands free, but I was talking to somebody the other day about this. I'm like, well, I still don't know what I do with my hands. I end up just putting them back on the wheel. The hands free stuff is really helpful if you're eating something when you're driving, which and you're stuck in horrible traffic, so you could eat your burrito or your taco, or in Nicole's case, a cookie.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I don't know. What do you eat while you're driving, Sam? How do you put yourself and others in danger?
Sometimes a cookie, maybe a protein bar. If I'm feeling particularly adventurous, maybe a burger.
Oh, burgers are tough.
Yeah. Oh, I can't eat a burger and drive.
Don't get a burger with avocado.
Usually,
just try it out when you're trying.
Usually I'll eat the burger in the parking lot before I leave. and then just put the fries in the cup holder and just eat the fries.
There you go. That's a proper way.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fries are easy when you're driving. So
I feel like I've become weirdly spoiled with the EV because you kind of have to stop. So then I just sit in the car listening to my music, like charging the car, and then eating my burrito, and then realizing I'm not going to get it done in time. So then I'm housing the burrito. I'm like, what am I doing? Just eat the other half later, Robbie. Come on.
Well, you see that's a great segue into the next thing I want to talk about, which is while we were out in Palm Springs, I actually rented a car. I don't very often rent a car. Usually, most of the time, most of the places we end up going, I'm usually able to line up a press car that I can drive and then review. But I decided to rent a car this time, and I decided to be really adventurous, and I rented an EV from Hertz in Palm Springs.
All right.
And, as we've talked about before, Hertz's misadventure with renting electric cars has not been great for the company from a business perspective.
It's such a... I've rented the cars from Hertz, and I want to hear what your experience was.
Yeah, Russ had a bad experience too, so go for it.
So... Hertz just reported their 2024 earnings a few days ago, and they reported that they lost $2.9 billion last year on their rental car program.
Oh my!
Most of that is because of the depreciation on the cars.
Oh, because they bought a ton of Teslas.
Yeah, most of what they had was Teslas, and they've been selling those off at a huge loss. And so they've had a lot of depreciation on those. And so they've really pared down the EV fleet. And most of what they have left at this point is Polestar 2s, which actually I like the Polestar 2.
Good car.
Been a fan of it. So the one we got was a 2023 model, had about 49,000 miles on it, which is actually quite high for a rental car. They usually dispose of them long before that. But 2-year-old Polestar 2 with nearly 50,000 miles on it. And if you are in Palm Springs, I mean, usually, like if you're renting from Hertz, especially if you're a Gold Club member, you can do everything online before you get there. You can reserve the car you want, pay for it and everything. And in most other locations where I've rented, there's a separate lane out in the parking lot where basically you don't even have to go to the counter. They will have your car waiting for you. They will send you an email or text message with, your car is in this space, go get it. And I got that email and said, your car is in space B43 or whatever it was. We walked out there to the parking lot, get there, the car's locked up, no key in sight. So I had to go back inside to the terminal where there was only 2 people working at the Hertz counter, one for the gold line, one for everybody else. Took about 15 minutes to get through the line because the one part of the reason was the couple in front of me had not reserved anything in advance. They just got there. They were trying to figure out what they wanted to rent. And it was a mess.
How do you live your life like that, by the way? Every time I see someone who's like at the rental thing, be like, you know what? I need to get a car. I'm like, did you not think about this before you left?
So anyway, they hand me the thing. I get the key. The fob is all cracked. There's a big chunk of plastic missing from it. It's like somebody drove over it. Walk. My wife's waiting out by the car, for 15 minutes. Because with the luggage out there, I didn't want to make her walk back inside with me. So I get out there, unlock the car, load everything in, and as everyone should do, if you are renting a car, before you drive anywhere, before you even get in the car, take your phone, walk around, take photos of all the way around the perimeter of the car. So if there's any damage on there, you've got a record of it before you go. And there was some damage on this one on the right rear corner. Clearly somebody had probably backed into something. And so there was a whole bunch of scuff marks on the right rear corner. And then when I got in and started it and started to drive away, I get a whole string of alerts popping up, blind spot monitor not working, rear automatic braking not working. It's like 5 or 6 different warnings of stuff that wasn't working because clearly whatever when they backed into it, they didn't just scuff the bodywork, but damaged the sensor underneath the plastic. And so that was fine. The car still drove fine aside from that, except that every time I got in, I'd have to clear these like 6 alerts. Aside from that, though, I mean, the car, it felt, even 50,000 rental miles on it, still felt really solid, really good. Oh, it also wasn't clean. So there's that. And I mean, it wasn't dirty, but it, somebody had not really gone through and cleaned it.
Yeah.
So anyway, drove it, for the next couple of days. When we were staying in La Quinta, which is southeast of Palm Springs, and we decided to go out to Joshua Tree National Park and go for a hike. So, drove all the way around. Palm Springs and La Quinta are to the south of the park. So we drove around the park, around to the north side, and went in and did a hike out to Barker Dam, which was great. The terrain there, if you've never been to Joshua Tree, if you're in the area, you should absolutely go out there and check it out. It's pretty amazing. And on the way back, there near the entrance to the park, there is a Rivian Adventure Network Outpost, which is what they call their charging stations. And the one at Joshua Tree in December became the first Rivian charging station that they opened up to all EVs. So prior to that, only Rivian owners could use the Rivian charging stations. So we stopped there, and they've had I think 8 chargers. There was nobody else charging when we arrived. There was a couple of Rivians there, because one of the things you can do at these Rivian stations is you can take a test drive in a Rivian, because they don't use traditional dealers. You can go in there and there's somebody staffing. They have a little shop, a little lounge, where once you plug in, get your car going, you can go in, sit down in the lounge. They've got drinks, they've got coffee, they've got snacks, and lots of both Rivian merch and merch from various local vendors. So at the various places where they have these, really nice little lounge, and there's a deck out in the back and a swing. You can go sit out there if you like, get some fresh air. And it's a great way to kill half an hour while your car's charging, instead of just sitting in the car twiddling your thumbs,
or eating a burrito,
yeah. And so
filling your face with food.
Yeah, and the chargers worked really well. They've got card readers on there. They got a nice display on there. Just plugged in, tapped my phone on the NFC reader, kicked it off, started charging. The car was at about 45% or so when we pulled in, and it was charging at over 100 kilowatts, about 110 kilowatts initially. So the charging experience was great. We went inside. We were chatting with the staff person. That they're open. The lounge is open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day. The chargers are open 24 hours, but the lounge is open from 7 to 7. And we were chatting with the guy who was working there, and he said, they've actually been getting quite a few non-Rivian EV drivers stopping there over the last couple of months since they opened it up. And he asked what I do, and I told him. He said, "Oh, Johnny Lieberman?" And I said, "Yeah, I've known Johnny for like 18 years." And I guess Johnny lives in Los Angeles, and he's got a son, 6-7 years old now, I think. They come out to Joshua Tree all the time. His son likes to go rock climbing in Joshua Tree.
Oh, that's cool. So, and they have a Rivian. He has a Rivian.
He's got an R1T. Yeah. So he stops by there all the time. So chats, and so the price for charging there is about 60 cents a kilowatt hour, which is on the high side. But there's not a lot of other options right around there. So,
it's still cheaper than some of the just Tesla. So I've seen a lot more Teslas at Electrify America stations, because there's almost like a 10-cent differential in pricing. It's like 56, 51 cents for EA, and then 66 to 70 cents for the Tesla charging network. So
Tesla's got variable charging during the day, different times Times when it's busy, they jack the price up. So they've basically got surge pricing on charging. But speaking of pricing on charging, another thing, when you rent a car and, if you, they tell you on the rental agreement, here's, if you bring it back not full, here's what we're going to charge you for gas. Well, they had the price on there for charging if you didn't bring it back with enough charge in it, $1.44 a kilowatt hour.
I told them, so here's my Hertz. I have to go out to Warrendale. That's where SAE's, or Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where SAE's headquarters is. And I always try to rent an EV because we have charging at work. Like, we get to work, there's the charge point charger, you plug it in, easy peasy. It just makes my life easier. Plus, I'm the sustainability guy.
Yeah.
I should have an EV. Yeah, and sometimes you can get a pretty sweet deal on the, so I'm always trying to save money because I'm I used to have to take care of travel and expenses for one of my jobs. So I'm always making sure that I'm not spending a lot of money. And occasionally they're like, well, you need to bring it back up to 100%. And I explained to them, that's physically impossible unless there's a charging station right next door. And they're like, what? I'm like, that's impossible. I cannot bring it back at 100%. And I'm like, do you guys get training? They're like, yeah, they sent some videos out. So there's there's a lack of training when it comes to the EVs, and then just hoist them on to people who sometimes don't want an EV, didn't ask for an EV. They're like, here you go. And so these people don't know any better. And then they're telling them you have to bring it back at 100%, which again, impossible. Because if your gas gauge said 100%, 99%, 97%, you would never be able to get back to the Hearst or whatever rental station.
Yeah, because you got to use some energy to get from wherever you're filling it to the lot.
Yeah, so that's that. So that right there just gives people all this anxiety. And jeez, yeah.
Well, to be fair, on the plus side for Hertz, when I picked up the car, it was at 100% charged. So they must have plugged in there.
So they did, and that's good.
It was 100% charged, and they said just bring it back with at least 80% charge. So
okay, good.
There's an EA station about 2.5 miles away from the airport, and we stopped there on the way to the airport for about 10 minutes and topped it up to 85%. And
good to go.
And so we're good to go. Yeah. So, overall, it was a reasonably good experience. The car, the Rivian experience was fantastic. The Rivian charging experience. So if you're somewhere where, they've got a Rivian charging station, those are set up really nice. No canopies, over the chargers,
especially in Joshua. Oof.
Yeah. But you've got the lounge in there, so you can park, plug in and then go sit inside during the day. And then, if you happen to stop at night, you don't really need the canopy so much. How did you choose which internet service provider to use? Well, if you're like most people in the US, you probably didn't actually really have a choice. You probably had one, or maybe if you're lucky, two choices of an ISP. The sad thing is most of us don't have that choice because ISPs operate mostly like monopolies or at best duopolies in the regions they serve. They then use this monopoly power to take advantage of customers. Data caps, bandwidth throttling, the list goes on. But worst of all, ISPs have the ability to keep a log of every website you visit, and so can a ton of other third parties, unless you use ExpressVPN. Without ExpressVPN, these third parties can still see every website you visit, even in incognito mode, because all that mode does is after your session's done, it erases your cookies and your history. But while you're surfing, your ISP, your mobile network provider, the administrators of your Wi-Fi network, like your school, your boss, or your parents, they can all log and see everything you're doing. ExpressVPN reroutes 100% of your traffic through secure, encrypted servers, so third parties can't see your browsing history. ExpressVPN is the best VPN service because it hides your IP address, making it extremely difficult for third parties to track your online activity. It's really easy to use. Just fire up the app, and there's one button to click, and you are connected and protected. And it works on all of your devices. I use it on my phones, my laptops, my desktop machines, my tablets, everywhere, everything that I use that I want to stay private on the go. And it's been rated number one by all the top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. So in my job as an analyst and as an automotive journalist, I do a lot of traveling. I spend a lot of time in airports, a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, and every one of those places that has Wi-Fi, if I connect to it, whoever's running that Wi-Fi service for that facility, as well as usually anybody else in the vicinity, might be able to pick up and track what I'm doing and capture things like passwords and other data that I'm transmitting. So if I want to check my bank while I'm on the road, I don't want anybody else seeing that information. So I've been using ExpressVPN for years. Every time that I log on to anywhere, first thing I do is connect ExpressVPN before I do anything else. So protect your online privacy today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. And you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. It happens to be raining. Yeah. But it doesn't rain there very often, so that's not so much of a problem either. But yeah, the Rivian charging experience is really good, and renting an EV from Tesla or from Hertz was not a horrible experience.
Okay.
All right. Well, there you go. I think.
It was actually quite a bit cheaper than renting an equivalent sized gas car.
That's the thing, is like something you'll get like a sweet deal, and I'm like, yeah. And then I'll end up renting a Tesla just because they don't hand those out. Just so I know, okay, all right, I'm driving a Tesla. I know what the last year or so and what it's like when this car gets sort of beat to death. And I get Polestar 2s and the Polestars are always I don't know, they're just better cars, to be honest.
All right, let's move on. This week, Volvo announced the new EX30 Cross Country. And so, they've had cross country trims on most of their other crossovers over the years and cars. And this is basically the same idea, slightly lifted, a little more aggressive tire, but otherwise basically an EX30. Front fascia. I was watching the video. I'll put a link to the TFL video. Roman got to go over to Sweden, and try it out. And the front fascia has a molding. Normally, it's just a basic plastic molding, body colored plastic with the Volvo logo. But for the cross country, it's got a topographic map of northern Sweden on there.
Oh, that's
cool. If the Solterra had a topographic map of like Mount Fuji, we would like it 10% more.
Definitely 10% more if it had a topographic map of. What would it need? It wouldn't be Sweden. What would it have a top?
Vermont. It'd be Mount Fuji.
I guess maybe.
I guess Vermont.
Or maybe Vermont. Mount Fuji.
Yeah, Mount Fuji.
Either one of those would work.
Yeah, Vermont.
Yeah. I feel like it's insane.
Like legally,
Vermont.
Can't even buy a non-Subaru in Vermont.
I'll kick you out.
The EX30 Cross Country will be coming to the U.S. market later this year. How much is it? I think Roman. I don't know if they have the price. I don't see the price in the press release here, but in the in Roman's video, I think he said it's like going to be like $48,000.
Yeah, I don't see a price.
And and it'll be about 260 miles of range.
Okay,
which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing's got 400 horsepower. It's a little winter driving demon.
Yeah, those Volvos, they're just like super secret sleepers.
Yeah, I think it was a great little car. So this is kind of cool.
Yeah, I like the EX30 a lot. I mean, I haven't had. I don't think any of us have had any significant amount of time to drive it, but had a couple of short periods to drive it and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's good. This is a nice addition.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Charging the Polestar. Remember the Honda Nissan merger?
Yeah, it was going to change everything.
Everything was going to be better, newer, faster, stronger.
I wrote a thing about how it could help with their EV building EVs, because one company has the money and the tech, and the other one has the experience. Womp womp, Robbie.
Well, to be fair, first of all, the merger ain't happening.
It is.
When the CEO of Nissan told the CEO of Honda that he wanted a merger of equals, he didn't want to be a subsidiary company. That was basically the end of the line for the deal. But they apparently are going to continue the collaboration that they had announced earlier on EVs. So they're still going to do some EV work together, but they're not going to merge into one company.
All right. Well, Honda gets to save some money. They get that again. They get that experience, that all that data of having decades of Nissan Leafs on the road.
So what's going to happen to Nissan though? Aren't they in dire straits? Going to go out of business like yesterday?
I don't know. Infiniti will probably be sunset at some point.
Yeah, but that was probably going to happen if there was a merger as well.
Either way, Infiniti's in big trouble.
Is that what you're saying?
Which is, I don't know. I feel bad for all those folks.
Yeah, I think Nissan's looking for a new partner, but
who do you think it would be?
I mean, Toyota basically apparently already said no even before the Honda deal was announced. Yeah,
they weren't asked, according to Akio Toyota. But also he's like, yeah, this will be fun for them. It's good for everybody.
Yeah.
But I think in the subtext is like, it's good for everyone. Oh, thank God we're not doing it.
Yeah, God. I've heard
we'll see
of Foxconn.
Yeah, I mean that is one possibility. Foxconn's been trying to get into the car business for a number of years now. They bought the former the Lordstown factory that was originally a GM plant, and then a Lordstown Motors plant, and they were going to build the Fisker Pearl there, and so Foxconn hasn't had much success actually breaking into the auto industry.
Really great, but yeah.
But maybe if they just buy Nissan, that would be the way to do it.
Could be. We'll have to see if that
merger of equals. I mean, that would make more sense. Yeah. Foxconn and Nissan being a merger of equals versus Nissan.
Except that, again, I don't know that Foxconn would necessarily want it to be phrased as a merger of equals. I think Foxconn would see it as an acquisition.
I think branding wise, I think it makes more sense as a merger of equals when you go out there, because Foxconn doesn't build cars and Nissan does. So you're like, hey, we're equals because you have money and capital, and you have places, and we've been building cars for a very long time.
And you got all those sweet profits from making iPhones.
Yeah, he got all those sweet iPhone profits.
Sweet iPhone money.
So, I mean, Sony can team up with Honda, so why not Foxconn and Nissan?
Right. Well,
yeah, there you go.
Because what was it that Nissan said? It's been a few months ago. There was somebody who came out and said we only have like 18 months left of money or 12 months left of money.
Something.
Yeah, something like that.
It's a very limited number of months of money, and that was several months ago. So.
And they announced a bunch of layoffs during the LA Auto Show.
Yeah. I think weren't there additional layoffs just announced? Why do I think there were more announced?
I think more were coming.
More coming. That's what it was. More cutback and things are. Yeah. I like Nissan. I'm worried for the Nissan peoples.
Yeah.
I mean, the folks running it now got sort of handed a bag of poo, and they've been trying to fix it ever since.
Deep poo for a long time. Yeah, they're in there. Yeah.
Here's a big bag of poo. Fix this. And you're like, okay.
All right. Well, there's also the other side of that now dead deal. Honda. Honda is launching a new Passport, new generation Passport that they're targeting this to be more of a direct competitor to the likes of the 4Runner and Bronco and Wrangler. We'll see how that works out. But they announced pricing for it this week. What do you think about the price of the 2026 Passport?
Has that gone? I'm going to be honest. Did that go up or did it go down, or did it stay?
It went up by a few $1,000s.
By a couple thousand. Okay, that's what I thought.
I think the Trail Sport's about $4,000 more than it was last year.
Okay, so more expensive. There has to be a really good reason in this economy. There has to be a really good reason. Give us a really good reason when we drive at Honda.
More money in this economy?
Yeah.
It looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks better.
Yeah, it looks really
it does have their torque vectoring iVTM4, which is basically the Acura super handling all-wheel drive system, but tuned for off-roading rather than track use. And so apparently from a couple of early drives of prototypes that I read back last year, apparently it works really well. So we'll see. I mean, we'll be the judge of that in, what is it, next month?
I think it's next month. I think it's the end of March, maybe.
Yeah. So
we'll find out soon.
So the pricing starts for the base RTL trim. And do we ever figure out what RTL stands for? Does it stand for anything?
Really tough ladies.
I'm gonna see if I can figure it out. Okay, go ahead.
The RTL starts at $44,750. And then goes up. The Trail Sport is $49,900, including the destination charge. So the RTL, including destination, is $46,200. $49,900 for the Trail Sport, and the Trail Sport Elite Blackout is the top model at $55,100, which is that's getting up there.
Yeah.
Okay, in answer to your question, I found one thing that says it stands for refined luxury trim.
What? That doesn't make any sense. I thought I like really tough
WRLT.
Oh, that doesn't work. Okay, never mind. That doesn't work either.
I like really tough ladies.
Yeah, that works.
If you are a really tough lady, or you would like to date a really tough lady,
and what's the RTL?
Get a Honda Passport.
And what's the RTLE? Really tough lady extra?
Elite.
Elite.
Ooh,
She's elite.
I'll go for that.
She's a tough lady, but also she knows
elite.
her champagnes.
Well, the first thing that popped up when I Googled under the Google Search Labs entry was RTL stands for Ridgeline Technology, and is a trim level of the Honda Ridgeline.
Technology. What's the L stand for?
Ridgeline Technology.
Email. I'm going to email.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Everyone at
generative AI is stupid.
It's really bad.
Yeah,
it doesn't really quite know what's going on.
All right. Anyway, so $46,000 to $55,000 for the new Passport. Still has the same 3.5 liter V6 as before, although slightly more powerful. It has been updated, but same basic architecture. But the big thing is the new all-wheel drive system should be much more capable off-road, and we'll get a chance to drive it a little more than a month from now, and we will let you know if it's actually any good.
I feel like the pricing is like sort of reflective of the Highlander, the Land Cruiser and stuff like that, where you have Broncos, where you're like, oh, this is a more rugged vehicle, so let's make it a little bit more pricey.
Oh,
I'm more than happy to throw you money for that.
I found an explanation that I like this one. Actually, I think it could make sense because you were saying it's a Ridgeline thing. Ridgeline Touring Leather.
Leather?
RTL.
Whatever. Yeah.
Somebody message Honda next week's mission. What the heck does this actually mean?
What does RTL stand for? Let me look at my email. They sent me an email about this. Hold on. You guys
I don't think I've ever
Jake
seen
Berg.
a definition of RTL.
I think Jake Berg emailed me.
All right. So, Nicole, I got a question for you as someone who owns a Jeep in your family. Have you had any pop-up ads for extended warranties show up on the screen of the Wrangler?
Not a single one ever.
Okay.
So I'm curious about this. I know exactly and I was like, what? I haven't seen this at all.
So apparently over the last week or so, some Jeep owners did report these pop-ups showing up when they stop the car, pop-ups promoting an extended warranty offer on their Jeep. And Jeep, their official line is that it was a glitch, that they were supposedly testing a mechanism to opt out of pop-up ads, and it accidentally popped up on customers' cars.
Why are they even ads in the cars in the first place? That's the big question. That means that someone said, you know what we should do? We should put ads in the car. Are we going to turn it on now? We won't turn it on just now. Let's put them in there just in case. Let's throw some ads in there.
Because you never know.
You never know. People love ads. The Super Bowl, everyone's watching ads during the Super Bowl.
Well, would you rather have that, or would you rather have somebody from Jeep calling you and saying, hey, we see your car's about to run out of warranty. Would you like to buy an extended warranty?
Yeah.
I would rather they call, because I'm just not going to answer that phone call.
Okay.
I would rather they call and I just ignore that. Like every other phone call, unless it's someone I know. Yeah.
Well,
every time you get a call from New Jersey, you're like, oh, it's BMW. Hold on.
Well, we'll see if any of these ads turn up in your new Wagoneer S.
I know. We'll find out when the Swagoneer comes in. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Swagoneer.
Okay. Aero-dimples. Continental. I mean, every tire maker has been experimenting with ways to make their tires more, or to update their tires to make vehicles more energy efficient. And Continental is launching a new line of tires with what they're calling aero-dimples.
Like it.
Aero-dimples.
Mm-hmm. It's just like a golf ball.
Yeah. They're molding in little dimples along the edge of the tire, the outer edge of the sidewall, just off the tread area, putting little dimples in there, which are supposed to, because one of the big sources of aerodynamic drag in your car is the tires, especially as they're rolling. So these dimples are supposed to help manage the airflow as it goes across your rolling tire to reduce the drag a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it reduces that turbulence that your tire is creating.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at the pictures. Hold on.
I know, that's what I was doing, trying to look at the close up. It's like you wouldn't know it was like what it was, but it just looks like a funky pattern on the, like, sort of the sidewall close to the tread.
Is it the same pattern? It changes every one.
Different.
See, that's my thing. I'm trying to figure out like how often it changes. Because if you had the same, then you end up with this weird, like you'll end up with a tone.
Because
you have to change it up.
Some of them look like a little pyramid. It's like 3, 2, 1, the little dimples on top of each other.
Yeah, and it looks like every 2 tread blocks or something. It looks like it changes.
Then another one is like 3, 4, 1. So it changes up. I only see those 2 examples.
Okay, let's see, 1, 2. Anyway, yeah. I don't know. We're such big tire nerds, apparently. Like everyone, please join us in staring at aero-dimples on your own computer at home. It's like a read-along book. It's like, boom. Okay, let's all look at the next picture.
No, these are first appearing on the EcoContact 7 and 7S tires, and initially only in Europe. So you won't be able to buy these here unless they happen to come from the factory on a European car that you buy.
I found another pattern, Robbie. There's one that's a 1 and a little pair of 2 and a pair of 2 and then a 2 and a 1 and a 2. There's a whole bunch of different patterns on here.
And then like on the sidewall itself, there's like a weird little pattern as well. I don't know if that's just design.
I think that's just design.
If that's on earlier vehicles.
The one above the safety warning?
Yeah.
I think that's just a design. I don't think that's functional.
All right, yeah, because it's broken up by the Conti, like name and whatever.
Yeah,
I want tires with aero-dimples now.
No.
I didn't know I needed that until right now, but now I need to have tires with aero-dimples.
We are going to make people care about tires, whether it's if it's the last thing we do.
We will make you care.
We will make you care about tires.
Another feature of these new tires is sound or lack thereof. The tread pattern, the new tread pattern on these things, Continental is calling it urban silent. So it speeds up to 31 miles an hour. The tires should make almost no sound to the occupants.
Oh,
really?
I mean, that's cool. Fortunately, the car will make a noise so it doesn't like sneak up and hit pedestrians.
Yeah.
Bling 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 bling. I want to make an album of just the sounds from EVs.
Also, the compound they're using in this tire is called Green Chili 3.0.
Yeah.
Ooh, everything about this is fun. They got Conti has their horse, and there's little dimples, and then the thing, and then chili.
I'm all in for these tires now, but I can't get them.
Continental, please send us all these tires.
Green Chili dimple tires.
I don't know I guess I would put them on my EV.
I'll have to see if Continental will send over a set to put on the Civic.
There you go. That's a good car to put them on.
I can put them on the Wagoneer.
Yeah, I can't put them on the BRZ. I'll just be sliding all over the place.
Yeah.
Here's Robbie.
Be good for the Civic.
Simple tire.
Like, whee!
There he goes.
Yeah, the Eco Contact 7 and 7S will not be marketed in the U.S. The only way to get these, if you buy a new car that is equipped with them from the factory. But I'm sure that at some point, maybe not these particular models, but they will probably have something that utilizes these technologies.
Yeah. It's weird when you get a car that has like brand new crazy tires, because then it becomes very expensive and they have to order it. Like that's happened with both of our Hyundais where we've had sidewall punchers. We're just like, well, we just need a new tire. And you go in and they're like, yeah, these are like, one of them had to be shipped over from like Korea. And then the other one, the Michelin had to be sent up from there was like one in Fresno. And they had to send it up, and it was very expensive. He's like, wow, these are new and they're pricey. I'm like, it's fine, just put it. But they're Michelin, so like even the one that took off, even though it had 10,000 miles, man, it didn't look like they look pretty new.
Yeah.
Doesn't look bad. Yeah,
those Michelins, they last a long time.
Good tires.
All right, Toyota on the new Tacoma, they've got a recall on them because of muddy brakes. So one of the reasons why over the last 30 years wheels have gotten so much larger on most vehicles, they look better, but also initially when they first started going to like 16-inch wheels and 17s and 18s, the original reason was to provide more room for the bigger brakes, so for better performance, because the brakes obviously have to fit inside of the wheel rim. And apparently on the Tacoma, at least on some trims of the Tacoma, they did not leave enough space between the brakes and the wheel. And if you are going off-roading with these things, you can get mud built up on the inside of the wheel, the inner perimeter of the wheel rim. And then as you're driving down the road, and this is with the 17-inch wheels on the Tacomas, especially on the rear brakes, mud built up on the inside of the wheel can rub on the brake line, potentially causing loss of braking if it wears all the way through. So they are modifying the design of the brake line, rerouting it to help avoid this problem.
Oh, that's a bad thing.
Vehicles too, 100,000 Tacomas, and considering a lot of people take that into the mud.
Yeah. I mean, most of them will probably never see this problem, but I think this can also happen in winter driving. I know one of the things
ice and snow.
Yeah, one of the things I experienced, back in the 90s when I was doing ABS and traction control development, is sometimes when you're out testing on a frozen lake, you can get ice and snow built up on the inside of the wheels, and if you didn't clear it off, then it can sort of melt and freeze, and you'll have chunks of ice stuck to the inside of the wheel. And then when you go drive down the road with these chunks of ice stuck on there, you get all kinds of crazy vibration, the wheels bouncing around all over the place.
Fun fact, that will also happen if your husband decides to drive through a snowbank on the way to breakfast just because he can and get snow wedged into the wheels. And you get on the highway and the car's like, boom, 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 boom. I'm like, that's your fault.
You know what? Worth it.
It was worth it for the smiles on our faces. But I was like, what? I'm like, oh, we got to not. There's some snow packed in there.
I did that with my dad's like late 70s Dodge Aspen station wagon. I drove to a giant snowbank and it just gummed up the entire steering linkage. I was like, okay, I'm going to drive this around a little bit more until the steering, get some of this snow out and then take it home and then hope it doesn't freeze over. My dad kills me.
And you're here, so it must have worked out. Okay.
Yeah, it worked out. He doesn't know, and he doesn't listen to this podcast, so it's fine.
You'll never know. We can blackmail Robbie now.
Nah, you don't know. You don't know nothing.
So all that talk earlier about Palm Springs was because all three of us at various times in the past week We're never all three of us at the same time.
We were on the same.
Rob and I were at the same time.
We were on the same time.
Poorly, Sam.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you were the odd man out, Sam.
Oh, were you two both on the same wave?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, I was the odd man out. Anyway, we were all in Palm Springs to drive the 2025 Hyundai Ioniq 5. We can't talk about that until next week in terms of driving impressions. But one thing we can talk about is the 25 Ioniq 5 is the first non-Tesla built vehicle with a SAJ3400 charging port, also known as a North American Charging Standard port, built in from the factory, which means that you can charge it on Tesla chargers without using an adapter.
And they are giving you an adapter still for the CCS.
Right. Yes. So they're going to provide free adapters for everybody with a 2025 model to use CCS chargers. Yes. So you can still use your Electrify America charger or any other one. And for everybody else that has a Hyundai EV with a CCS port on it, going back all the way back to the original Ioniq electric hatchback from 2017, they can all get free adapters to use J3400 chargers,
which is very cool.
Yeah. And the ordering for that is going to start sometime in March. But yeah, everybody will, for every Hyundai vehicle with a CCS port, they'll be eligible for a free adapter. But Jonathan Gitlin and I were driving together, and
cool.
As we were on our way back to the hotel, there was a Tesla supercharger station in Cathedral City, which I believe you've used previously, Robbie.
Yeah, I went there like the day before.
Oh,
and it looks like you're parked in the very edge. We parked there as well. Tommy, Micah, and I were driving.
Well, I was in the middle by which was technically the handicap spot.
Okay.
But we were only there for a few minutes. And if somebody came up and needed it, we would have immediately moved, because that was where there was space, because the other chargers were all full.
There's like one person we went. It was great.
Oh yeah, there were several other people there, and the woman parked next to us was asking, what are you guys doing? What are you charging here? And so Jonathan was explaining to her that this is a 25 Ioniq as a native charge port. But anyway, we wanted to see how it charged, and once first of all, Hyundai doesn't have plug-in charge support in their EVs yet. It's coming sometime in the next few months. But so right now, if you want to charge at a supercharger, you do have to use the Tesla app to trigger it, because Tesla said, we don't need card readers and displays and anything on our chargers, because that's just stuff to break. And so we pulled in, plugged in the charger, and then used the app to tell it which charger we were on and triggered charging, and it started working. It worked great.
Yeah, it was like I have it on my phone because I've used it for like 100 years ago when Tesla would hand out cars for reviewing, but also for like the Magic Dock and stuff. Mm-hmm. I just plugged it in. Like Tommy and I both used each other's like accounts, so we could each shoot our own videos of what was going on. And yeah, it's just like the end.
Yeah.
it's yeah. I wish there were like little LCD displays on the Tesla. Like I don't think we need like a iPad. I think I just want it to work.
Yeah.
like a gas station. Like let's not get super fancy. Let's just redo the gas station. Yeah. That's working. The gas station pump's working. We just throw just not the little videos that have like Mario
no
Lopez
ads running, no gas station TV.
Yeah, I don't need Mario Lopez telling me about like some sort of supplement that makes me poop. I don't need that. I just want to be able to go up and just charge without like having to pull a phone out of their pocket.
At 48% state of charge, the Ioniq 5 was cranking along at over 126 kilowatts. So it was good. It's good experience. Other than the fact that you're giving money to that guy and that company, but
there's that.
Yeah,
But if you're trapped somewhere,
and you need to
everything else is broken. Boom.
Yeah.
What's nice is that it's 127, but that's only because Tesla's charging network is 500. Well, the V3s, somewhere there's a V4, I don't know where, they're 500 volt, and the Ioniq 5 is 800 volts, so it's to step down to 400 volt in order to do 127. Out at an 800 volt charger, it'll do up to 257, I think is the number.
Yeah, they bumped it up. It used to be 235 or so, 234, 235.
So it's a nice bump. So if you happen to find one of those charge point Omniports, or you just use the adapter, there's no energy loss with the adapter. If you just use the adapter at like an EA station or an EVgo station that's working correctly, you'll get up to 257, which is super quick.
All right. So Nicole.
Yes.
Last week, while we were talking about turning on your high beams for 30 seconds to warm up your 12-volt battery on a cold winter day, you did a little Googling while we were talking and tracked down a story on jdpower.com.
Yeah. So the person who wrote in said they were in Chicago and they saw it. We found, I think it was like one of the major stations in Chicago had the story, and they referenced JD Power. So I messaged the only person I know at JD Power. I was like, hey, dude, what's up with this? And he's like, well, now you're going to know two people, because I am going to connect you with, let's see, their head of a PR. So I said to him, he said, can I give you a call? And I chatted with him, and he said, did you want to interview the guy who wrote it? Or I'm like, no. I don't want to interview him. I just want to understand the recommendations in the story, because it seems really outdated. Like that it was just a weird story. And I did get a message back. And he said, circling back. And I'm like, oh, that was the most corporate thing I've seen in an email in a while. He said, he's circling back. And he said, the web team was unsure how those tips, many of which were for cars of a past generation, found their way into the story and onto the website, but they are looking into it. The story has been taken down. Many thanks to your listener and to you for bringing it to our attention. So the car went, nope, and pulled it, which is good.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and now it will not be spread to other people.
So look at us, like getting rid of disinformation. Go.
Yay.
Go. Who was it originally? I got to look back at show note.
It was Mark.
Mark. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
And we have a follow-up email from Mark this week as well.
Okay.
All right.
So
is it more math and electric?
Yeah. Come on,
Mark. but before that JD Power article got pulled down, we all read it, and there was a bunch of stuff in there, and I don't know. I mean, it sure read like something that was generated by ChatGPT.
It wasn't though. Like that person is a real. I mean, it could have been.
They could. There was a real human being byline attached to it.
And he has written a few things for JD Power. It looked like, but it was. It sort of sounded like it was a team that was providing content for JD Power, and they're like, "What?" When they really looked at it, yanked it down, and no further explanation. But I think it just kind of. However, it snuck by, but it did seem weird. It felt like one of the advice was strange. It didn't really entirely make sense. And some of it, like I said, felt like it was a car from, 50 years ago. Like, we don't do that in 2025.
My 1973 Dodge Dart has a choke on it. Right? So when I look, like, what?
You said to someone to adjust the choke, people be like, the what now? Like, nobody knows.
Who's it?
Yeah. So... yeah. So story down, but now we have another. Do you want to go into Mark's question now?
Yeah, let's do that.
Question of the episode.
So Mark says, hello again. First off, my apologies for making your brains hurt with my battery question. For a short background, my wife's alternate car is a 2002 Honda CR-V. It doubles as a transport car for a dog rescue shelter at which we volunteer. Oh, good for you guys.
Yeah.
It's everybody, every shelter needs more volunteers.
Yes.
There's probably not one anywhere that could not use more volunteers. Anyway, let's see. During the bitter cold of -5 degrees Fahrenheit, it would slow crank a couple of times, and that's all I could get. It seemed like the battery didn't even have enough cold cranking amps, and that's how they rate battery power is cold cranking amps. So I can't remember what the temperature is for the rating, but essentially, whatever number is on the label on the battery is, this is how much current it can put out at a given temperature. Anyway, the battery didn't have enough CCA to get the engine to turn over. During more moderate temps, it will start. And that, again, that's fairly typical of a battery. When it gets cold, it has less power. In my opinion, it's more an available amperage issue than voltage, but I'm not an electrical engineer, so take that with a grain of salt. Since the forecast calls for cold again next week, I might be able to replicate the conditions. I'll take my Klein digital voltmeter and compare before and after turning on the brights for 30 seconds or so. I also have an infrared temperature detector, and we'll see if the battery shows any difference. Mark is serious about this.
This is my favorite thing right now.
All our questions. This is awesome.
I doubt the temp will look any different, since it would take some time for any warmth to radiate to the outer surface. But it's worth a try just for kicks. I'm retired. What else do I have to do?
This is awesome. You're actually going to do this, Mark. Report back. This is now the Mark. It will have 3 weeks in a row. It'll be Mark.
Mark is our official cold battery correspondent from now on. On an unrelated note, I just returned from the Chicago Auto Show. For me, it was very disappointing. Mercedes, Audi, and Mazda were all absent. Maybe others that I didn't notice as well. Most other manufacturers had a much smaller footprint than in years gone by. I'm on the verge of ordering an X5 and have a few technical questions, but no one at the BMW display was able to address. Please see your local BMW dealer was all they could say. I guess I just missed the days when the show was big enough to occupy all 3 floors of the East building. So do we, Mark. So do we.
Yeah, it's gotten smaller. That's sad to hear, though. I mean, from our point of view as journalists, it's smaller and it's not the media event that it used to be, but it's supposed to still be a consumer show. So it makes me sad that as a consumer, you're like, not as cool even. You know?
Yeah, if you can't get the information, that's kind of the reason. One reason to go is to sort of like gawk at everything that you probably won't buy, but you still want to look at it and sit in it and push buttons and things. But if you go there specifically looking to find out information, just sit in a vehicle without having to go to the dealership and deal with that whole rigmarole, and then they're like, well, I don't know, go to the dealership.
That's not helpful.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, tell you what, Mark. Send us an email with the questions you have about the X5, and
I'll make some stuff
we will we will try to provide you with some answers.
There you go. So you still don't have to go to a dealership.
I would wager that we could probably come up with more accurate answers than most dealers.
That's true.
That's probably true. Yes.
The turnover at dealerships.
Or if we can't, we know who to actually ask at BMW. Yeah,
we know a couple guys over there at the BMW.
So yeah, shoot us an email with your questions, Mark, and we will try to help you out. Because my personal experience with car dealers and asking technical questions, not great.
I usually know the answer, but I'll ask anyway, and they're like,
sometimes I do it just to mess with them.
Just see. I don't tell them that I'm an automotive journalist when I show up, but my wife does, and that changes everything very quickly.
I out myself. I tend to say something I don't realize is out of me as someone who knows more than average. Like I'll say something, well, on the Monroney, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, because nobody calls them non-dirties.
Darn it.
My friend Bob Broderdorf said, that the Jeep has this feature.
Bob, yeah, exactly.
I was
your
talking
boss.
to it.
When I was having coffee with Bob the other day, I had a drive program.
Kia Toyota and I were talking about the Corolla. They're like, wait, what?
All right. We have one other email from Chinton. First of all, thanks for putting on such a great show every week. We try. Thank you. I think Sam needs to update his bio on the website. Has him at his old job. I think you're right. I have not updated that. I will address that. I stumbled upon this video earlier today on YouTube. It relates to stop lamps, brake lamps on Hyundai Motor Group's eGMP cars. In short, according to the video, these vehicles did not activate their stop lamps when one pedal driving mode was engaged, or rather they only activated them at the very end when the car was almost fully stopped. My BMW EV activates its stop lamps as you would expect when it has engaged regenerative braking with enough force to cause the car to slow like a friction brake. However, I did not realize that other companies did not apply the same logic. In fact, according to this video, the Federal Highway Motor Vehicle Safety Standards do not require stop lamps to be engaged at all during regenerative braking. Do you guys have any experience with this yourselves? Don't you think that this is a massive safety problem if other car companies handle it the same way as Hyundai does? By the way, I wrote in a year ago asking about the type of car I could get my kid. He wanted an old Audi A6 3.0T. I ended up getting him a 2018 Golf GTI, and he loves it despite not having more than 330 horsepower. Thanks, and keep the podcast coming. So actually, I did talk to Miles Johnson about this yesterday or a couple days ago after I got this email. And the most, in fact, pretty much all automakers do turn on the brake lights as soon as you get above, I think it's about 0.05 Gs, which is kind of like the minimum that you're going to get, minimum amount of decel you're going to get when you apply the brake pedal. So every automaker that I know of does this now. Hyundai did have an issue with this early on with the EGMP cars. There was an error in the software.
Consumer Reports did a whole thing about it too.
They did address it fairly quickly. There was a recall. So they updated the software on the early cars, and all the ones now do turn on the brake lights basically anytime you get above that minimum deceleration threshold.
So they fixed it like they're supposed to.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's like when people point things out, that's why recalls are so important. It's not always just like a bad motor or whatever. Sometimes it's just something as weird as regenerative braking. At what point do the brake lights come on? And that was I know Consumer Reports did a thing, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll fix it. I checked my Hyundai when I got it. I was like looking because you can sort of see the brake light like sort of like at night, sort of reflecting. I'm like, all right, that seems okay.
Yeah, Miles did say, that was something that they realized early on, and they corrected it, and ever since, all the Hyundai Motor Group EVs do this properly now.
Cool.
But you're right, it is a real safety issue. If you've got regenerative braking that's slowing the car down at 2 or 3/10 of a G deceleration, and especially at night, where it's harder to judge the distance. And your car is braking at that speed, that's a major issue for anybody that's following you.
Yeah. And I do like that they got the 2018 Golf GTI. It's a good car.
Yes.
I wonder if it's a manual or
it doesn't say. Chinton, if you want to let us know if you got a manual or an automatic. Hopefully,
the manual is a lot more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hopefully you got.
That's me. I'm not. I want to make sure everyone knows that if you don't know how to drive a manual, that's fine. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
But if you get a manual and your friends want to borrow your car and you're reluctant to let them borrow your car, if your friends don't know how to drive a stick, now you have an excuse not to loan your car to people.
Yeah, there you go. There's that as well. So
especially with teenagers.
Yeah, because your kids, your friends are all, your peer pressure, man. Peer pressure.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up in that's not how I ended up in a Samurai that launched in the air. That's a completely different story. The person just took the car. They just took the car and then picked me up.
All right. I think that's everything we got for this week. I think we've covered everything on the list. So we will talk to you all next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.